And he said, "You will never take back our country with weakness." President Trump's.
Hey guys, Robert C. Foley here. I'm watching some C-SPAN, watching our radical socialist leader Chucky Schumer. Those are the words of Sean Hannity. We obviously know he's not really that much of a socialist, although we wish he was. Um, Robert Foley of the Pink Think, and I just wanted to talk about what happened yesterday. My little cat is very upset by it. Cookie, his name is Cookie the Communist. He's not very happy about it. So what happened yesterday was unprecedented. It will go down in history as a shameful thing for President Trump, I believe. And it's just sad. I was crying, actually, at one point. I was actually crying. Just thinking about, I don't want to cry again, but thinking about all the people who were fooled into storming the White House and people who were puppets for this fascist leader, Trump. And you don't believe me that he's a fascist? Go watch my other video, shameless plug, on why we break down how Trump is a fascist. I'm not going to get into that right now, but we made an entire video on it. So yeah, check it out. It's 2 videos ago. The one before the Nina Turner one. So, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. We're left on this channel. We're socialist people. We're somewhat of socialists on this channel. We believe in some certain social ownership. We believe in workplace democracy. So, but that doesn't matter. That's not relevant. What's relevant is what happened. And Trump supporters stormed the White House. I'm going to tell you, this is like 9/11. Like, that was before my time. But people always say, where were you on 9/11? I wasn't even in the womb yet. But I was still a sperm cell. So, if that even, you know. So, basically, here's the deal. People will say this now from now on. Like, where were you when the White House, or not the White House, when, I'm sorry if I said the White House, the Capitol building. I'm sorry if I said the White House and anything before here. It wasn't the White House. The Capitol building was invaded by protesters, and let's be honest, rioters and terrorists, all working for President Trump. All doing Trump's bidding. He's literally, let's read this tweet. This is what he posted after. And this was actually removed from Twitter too. These are the things and events that happen when our sacred landslide victory is so ceremoniously and viciously stripped away from the great patriots who've been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and peace. Remember these days forever. So that's almost like he's still saying, like, this is what happens. You kind of deserved this. So I think he should be impeached. That's just my opinion. But I'm going to tell you how it went down for me. I was up early. I was watching the Senate on MSNBC. I know I'm a C-SPANner, but I occasionally watch MSNBC. And I was watching them count the votes. And I was also seeing, at the same time, they had like a cam of the protesters outside. Eventually, I remember seeing there was people on the steps. Protesters on the steps. And I'm like, how did they get there? And then I went upstairs. I was watching some YouTube, just some lefty YouTubers or other stuff like that. And I go back downstairs, and I see them with Trump flags in the United States House and the Senate, like on the floor. And that's what I remember. And then my grandma actually came over, and we were having a good time. But I actually started crying because I was so upset by what was going on. And I kept making the analogy, if this was BLM protesters, they would not have gotten that far. And I'm not saying they should go that far. I mean, I don't think anyone should breach the Capitol building. I mean, it's sacred grounds. Not to sound like a crazy religious person here, because I'm not a religious person, but it's, you know, it's our place where our Congress is supposed to work, and we can't have people. And this is the other thing that annoys a lot of leftists is people will call the protesters anarchists, and a lot of like really left, like people who are really into like political labels and like theory will point out that that's kind of ridiculous because Trump, as I've said earlier, is a fascist, and fascism and anarchism are diametrically opposed. So people who are protesting for fascism, calling them anarchists, they're using anarchists as you're saying, oh, they're violent and they're destructive, which that's not what anarchist means. It's a very specific political definition. I've got off track, but anyways. And then I went on a walk and I came back, and when I went on the walk after with my dad, because I was crying and I was upset, it was over for the most part. The Senate was back in session, and they counted the votes, and Joe Biden has been certified. What does this say? This says that our police and our security have their priorities completely backwards. At all those BLM protests, they had so many police officers and National Guard and whatever. Here, they didn't even have enough to stop these people, and they knew well. They must have known beforehand because they've talked about it in the things. Excuse me, online about having this protest. It was a planned event, but they didn't have enough people to stop them from going to the White House. But then again, some people will say, "Well, I didn't even expect him to go to the White House." But he said he would march to the White. I keep saying the White House. I'm sorry. To the Capitol building. He said he would march to the Capitol building. And I'm sorry that I said White House like literally a million times. Like I said, this is unscripted. This is, I don't even know if I said that. This is like my third take. But, yeah, third take. Sorry, I'm not an idiot. All right. Anyway, there was a lot of crazy people there. There was a couple arrests, 13 or so. People who trespass into things should be arrested and to the full extent of the law. I know that penalty for treason is death. I'm not a death penalty advocate, though, so I would not advocate for that. But seriously, I mean, they have violated the law. They need to be prosecuted. Why are they not being prosecuted when there's people who are smoking weed and are prosecuted for doing that when that harms nobody but arguably themselves? Why are they being thrown in jail when they're doing something that's a personal choice that doesn't affect other people? But these people are literally storming the Capitol building, and they're not being thrown in jail. That says something about our prison system. And our prison service system, hate to say it, if you're one of those people who's a racism denier, which is just enabling the system, in my opinion, there is systemic issues with policing and the criminal justice system. And that's represented in the prison population. And don't 1350 me if you're one of those fascist people. But there's systemic inequality. And that's why there is more black people in prison. I'm getting off topic, but the point is, these people, if they were BLM protesters, they would not have made it that far, and they would have had their skulls cracked by the police. That says something about our priorities. When there are civil rights protesters, who occasionally have violent actions against certain institutions, let me be clear, that does not represent the movement. I mean, that doesn't represent the entire movement. The entire movement is not about violence. It's about civil rights. This movement was a fascist coup. And QAnon was there, or QAnon, or let's call it QAnon. That's what I like to call it. And this crazy QAnon guy was there with this Viking hat, almost like mine, but like weird and like a, sheepskin or something like that, and like horns, and he's a QAnoner. And QAnon is terrible. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's this bogus conspiracy about how supposedly all these Democrats are, pedophiles or whatever and running the world. I have my issues with Democrats. Mainly the establishment ones. I still think they're better than Republicans. This is politicians, by the way, not talking about voters. I think the Democratic politicians have their fair share of issues. Same with the Republican politicians. But the idea that there's like this, they think there's some satanic pedophilic ring that's being like ruling the world. It's ridiculous. And actual child sex trafficking agencies like that are anti-child sex trafficking agencies. Sorry. Like agencies that are trying to reduce child sex trafficking and do something about it have denounced QAnon because they're actually hurting the movement of ending sex trafficking, illegal child sex trafficking. So QAnon is completely crazy. Those people were there. I believe the Proud Boys were there. You remember, stand back, stand down. I've been rambling on for about 10 minutes now, but I think it's safe to say that this was terrible, and I hope it never happens again. And we need to impeach the president, I believe, and move on. I have my issues with the incoming president. I don't think he's left-wing enough. This is coming from a hardcore commie. No, not really, but it's coming from a very left-wing guy. But one thing I do know about our current incoming president is he is not going to try to attempt a fascist coup, and he's not a fascist. There's some people who think Joe Biden is a fascist. Very few people, but some people are like, oh, because he supports some corporate institutions, or because he supports some capitalist societies, and because he's had a history of voting on the Iraq War or whatever, that makes him a fascist. No, I mean, you've got to be very specific. I laid it out in the video. I said, like, it has to be ultranationalist. I don't think Joe Biden is an ultranationalist. It's got to be forcible suppression of liberal democratic rights and opposition. Joe Biden, with the crime bill, I mean, people are like, oh, the crime bill, it did some stuff. But he's not literally trying to overturn democracy. And Joe Biden is not opposed to democracy. So Joe Biden is not a fascist. He's a neoliberal. He's a centrist-y kind of, Democrat guy. So he's not what I wanted. I wanted Bernie. I still voted for Biden. But he's not a fascist. But this attempt to overtake the United States Congress was a fascist coup. I'm sorry. I rambled on for like 11 minutes here, but I'm going to wrap up. Guys, I hope you're safe. I'm going to start crying here. But, I mean, this was a sad day for America. And let's just heal. And, yeah, let's just move on from this and make sure it never happens again. Thank you.